You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. And just like that, we are off and running. Can you believe that? Can you believe that we are off and running in such a way? That is amazing. Welcome to the program. Thank you for listening. My name is Ryan Singer. You are listening to a third-year bonus, which is a solo episode. Well, I will not be interviewing, although who knows who might pop in. Who knows? We might get a call on the, on the paranormal hotline that comes in, the red phone, like the president has in the Oval Office. That's the podcast. You've never listened to it before, and it's just me making thinking noises. No, I assure you it's not. If you're interested in listening to ad-free episodes of Me and Paranormal You, you can do that at patreon.com/Ryan Singer for $3 a month. $3 a month. Ad-free, every episode ad-free. If you're like me, you don't love ads. And by don't love, I think I mean you despise them. Advertising is everything in this world. Everywhere we go, there's advertising. Everybody's trying to sell us something and get us horny. It's kind of a it's kind of crazy the more you think about it. Anyway, so over at patreon.com/Ryan Singer, I am not trying to do either one of those things. I'm not trying to sell you stuff or get you horny. I don't even have to. Do I even have to say that? I don't think I do. So thank you to the new patrons who have joined up recently. I appreciate you. I hope you're enjoying all the content. Because, if you join up now, you get access to everything that's ever been over there, I believe. So, yeah. As long as you're at the right tier. Anyway. So we got exciting things happening. I will be launching a new podcast at some point here in the relatively near future called On the Dusty Trail with Trip Coltrane, which is not paranormal related in any way. But if you like Trip Coltrane, the old cowboy poet, I will be running his podcast for him. Anyway, okay, so with that out of the way, there's a couple things I want to talk about today. I do want to kind of circle back to idealism and its connections to paranormal phenomena. And I feel like maybe I have to talk a little bit about the Loveland Frogman because I am in Southern Ohio currently as I'm recording this. And I combined everybody and everyone into the same word. Everyone-y. I was having a conversation about the Frogman the other day, and someone thought it was ridiculous that it was called the Frogman, although it's the Loveland Frog, also known as a Loveland Frogman or Loveland Lizard, which, if you talk to a frog or if you talk to a lizard, they might have a problem with that, that you're, conflating the two, because a lizard is not a frog and a frog is not a lizard. But a 4 feet tall creature, bipedal, walking on 2 feet. Well, that's not what a frog does. It's not what a lizard does either. Anyway, so, I'm going to maybe get into a little bit of that because I'm going to, maybe go out looking for the Frogman here in the next couple weeks. I am on the float. I cannot remember the last time I've been home. And it's not easy. It's tough. It's difficult being out on the float this much. But, we're doing the best we can. Thank you to everyone who came out to see the comedy shows. We had a good time. I definitely had a good time. I still have T-shirts available. I'm going to be posting those on the social media, etc. But if you want one of the T-shirts designed by my buddy Torkel over at October Custom Publishing, OCP. I'm trying to remember the exact. I should know this. Let me bring that up right now while I'm talking. It's October Custom. Gosh. The shirts are awesome, and I've been getting lots of reports about how comfortable they are, and people love them. October Custom Publishing is definitely the name of his company and his publishing house. They do T-shirts, they do pamphlets, they do zines, they do magazines, they do anything you need. These shirts, light blue, heather blue, and pink, they're delightful. And I'm really glad to have a few of them left in various sizes, not all sizes. I think I'm pretty much sold out a large. Anyway, you can find them on Facebook. Yeah, you sure can. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on the World Wide Web. You know what I mean? So October Custom Publishing. Make sure you check them out. Based out of Austin, Texas. OctoberCustomPublishing.com is, in fact, the correct website. So, just really cool stuff. Really cool stuff going on over there. You can check out the website and you can see their work. So I want to talk about something that happened to me last night. It didn't happen to me as much as I experienced it, I suppose, and it's nothing super paranormal in any way, and not even paranormal, basic paranormal, let alone super paranormal. I finally watched the movie Elvis, which has been highly recommended. I'm not sure if you've seen the movie Elvis yet, but it is incredible. It's like I figured I'd already seen all the Elvis movies. I mean, they used to do back when I'm old enough to remember back when, musicians typically, they never had major studio biopics. It was typically a movie of the week. A big singer would get a Sunday night movie, right? Like I saw the Elvis one, which is much different than this one. That one really focused on his childhood and kind of growing up. And, Frank Sinatra had one. I'll never forget it because Frank Sinatra's movie of the week had him like jogging all the time for his lung capacity, but also smoking. And so it was like, I'm like, oh, so you can do both. And now here I am years later, like, oh, yeah, I'm so glad I smoked for 30 fucking years. It's like, if you're still a smoker or, you're addicted to nicotine, the Easy Way to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr audiobook or the regular book. I highly recommend that. I'm so glad to be free from that shit. So anyway, Elvis, it came out in 2022 this year, directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. And what a damn fine movie. What a damn fine movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It was written by Baz Luhrmann, Sam Bromell, Craig Pierce, and Jeremy Donner. Oh gosh, and Olivia DeJonge, I believe, or Helen Thompson, Richard Roxburgh. I mean, these are all people that are in the movie. I guess we shouldn't forget the editor, Matt Villa, and Jonathan Redmond were the editors. Such an incredible job. This movie, I'm sure you are somewhat aware of the story about Elvis Presley and Colonel Tom Parker. And, I do love these origin stories that get fictionalized to a certain degree or glamored up or, just really, they just make them really magical and shiny, like these moments of like, this is when Elvis became what he would become, right? The combination of these things, this alchemy that creates a superstar, but at a young age that you see play out later. And obviously nothing is that magical. And I'm not trying to dismiss the magicalness of real life and moments that form us and shape us, because I think we all would agree that if we are measuring our real life, and when I say real life, I mean the life we are experiencing outside of contrived, produced, constructed entertainment or visual worlds or audio worlds, like this is an audio world, a podcast is. I'm not trying to create necessarily an escape world or anything like that for you here, but I think we would all agree that if we start measuring our experiential lives against all of these other medias or mediums, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment, for sadness, for failure, and potentially even bitterness, which is troubling and something we should not be doing. And that's not to say that we cannot be inspired by things on television. I certainly have pursued a life calling because of something I saw on television and also heard on records as a child, stand-up comedy. So yes, inspiration is great, but to be measuring ourselves in a comparative way is not good for us to do. Right. And I mean, because let's face it, when you're watching a movie or a television program, you're not seeing the in-betweens, or what I like to call, you're not seeing the moments where they have to shit. You never see that. I mean, well, every once in a while, it's a funny moment in a movie, right? I think of Brothers, Where Art Thou with, that funny scene where there's a shit a-coming by Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. But outside of like things like that, right? You don't see the moments where the people have to take a shit, and you don't see the moments where they're bored and everything else, right? You're seeing an entire life, like in the case of the Elvis movie, which by the way is incredible, like I said, but it's 2 hours and 10 minutes long, 12 minutes long, I think, if you watch all the credits, which I typically try to watch most of the credits almost every time, but just so you can see all the people's names that went into making something that is so short in reality compared to the time that goes into making it. It's extremely short. It's like almost like the finished product of a movie is the diamond, and the credits are watching all the pressure transform the coal. So we cannot compare ourselves to these things, right? Because our lives would seem boring in comparison and maybe potentially even sad. And that's what I'm getting to here. Because what I'm describing, what I'm about to describe, as far as my experience watching this movie and being finished with this movie, is different than what I'm talking about here. These are emotions that are elicited and brought up within me regarding the trajectory of Aaron Elvis Presley's life. So not in me comparing my life necessarily to, I'm not going to compare myself to Elvis. I mean, who would do that? So that's not what this is about. But this movie is beautiful. This movie is incredible. This movie it moves so quickly. It is constantly in motion. That's something I did notice about this movie. It's constantly in motion. It's 2 hours, and you're like, oh, wow, that was 2 hours. Wow, that's over fast. You get a perspective from, it's told from Colonel Tom Parker's perspective, which is a new take on this for me. I'd never seen an Elvis movie that had done that or anything on Elvis about that. But after I'm done with this movie, I mean, the tragedy of Elvis. I mean, he overdosed. He found him dead on the bathroom floor. Of at the time what they said a heart attack, and we all know it was pills and drugs that killed Elvis, and the people around Elvis who were living off of him, who had, by all accounts, wonderful, extravagant lives because of the cash cow that was Elvis. And all the pressure that Elvis felt to sustain the lives of all of these people connected to him shines through in this movie in a way that is so fucking sad. I mean, I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it. When I was finished with this movie, I was nothing short of absolutely devastated emotionally. It was like me at 3 a.m. sobbing. I mean, what a tragedy. What a tragic story. And to think of, I mean, Elvis was younger than I am now when he died. I'm 46. Elvis was 42 years old when he unfortunately left this earth. I mean, as long as you're not one of the people who thinks Elvis is still alive, because he's not. I mean, you come to understand the drug addiction and the lifestyle that Elvis was living, and there's just no way you're like, oh yeah, he's just been quietly living out his life on an island, sober or whatever. It's just, I mean, anyway, just addicted to drugs, alone, feeling trapped by a world not even of his own design necessarily, but a world that he had dreamt of achieving at some point, most certainly. The most famous person on the planet, arguably, at the time. Ugh. I mean, and then just to die alone, never to potentially get to know his daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, to lose the love of his life, Priscilla Presley, and to just be alone with nothing except his addictions. It reminds me of a little bit of the Richard Pryor ending. Richard Pryor, towards the end of his life, was still, for lack of a better phrase, burning spoons. And it's fucking sad. It is tragic and it's sad. And those stories, I mean, I'm the guy who loves sad country music, even when I'm not sad. They're just beautiful, beautiful songs. And for whatever reason, I love sad, mopey ass country music that's done really well. And it's just beautiful music to me. It resonates. It speaks to a part of the human condition and the human struggle that we go through that I connect to in a deep way. That's not to say that I seek out these emotions in my real life, but to say that I don't experience them in my real life would be a lie, because hopefully we all do. And when I say hopefully, I'm not trying to wish ill will or sadness upon you. But I am saying hopefully because we're people, right? We have emotions and feelings, and not everything is always awesome and happy. And we have to allow ourselves to feel sadness. And sometimes we can do that by watching a movie like Elvis. And oh my gosh. And then the floodgate opens, and then now you're starting to think about everything in your life that's kind of gone wrong, or regrets that you might have, and loves that you've lost, or a love that you have lost. And it's just fucking overwhelming to a certain degree. And if we're lucky, we come out on the other side of it and we think to ourselves, man, aren't I lucky to have these moments inspired by something that's a fictional work of art based on real life. And it has shown a light onto the things I do have in my life that maybe I'm taking for granted a little bit, and to say the least. Or maybe I've taken for granted a lot and for too long. And, oh, thank goodness these things are in my life still. And what can I do to better show my appreciation for such things and stay better connected to these things? Now, that's not to say that, some of us don't do that, don't do a really good job of doing that already, because I'm sure many of us do. But I know I, for one, can really lack in that department from time to time. I get caught up in my own stuff. I spin off the globe is a phrase I like to use. Kind of just spin off the globe. If I'm out on the float, I left Los Angeles at the first week of July, and I'm still on the road. Haven't been back into town yet. Been back home. So I'm like, I am spun off the globe, one might say. Or I might say, because that's a thing I say. That's a thing. I'd never heard it before. That's just a phrase I use. I'm sure it's probably been used by other people in some context, but that's just something I've been saying for years. But it helps us gain perspective, right? And I think that's what is the interesting part of art, And, you have people like Elon Musk who are creating, artificial intelligence that creates art compiled of all the greatest artwork and everything that's ever been created, and doesn't think people need credit for it. And he's just a piece of shit. And, he's an idiot, blah, 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 blah. I could go on about that all day long. But, and is he a piece of shit? I don't know him, so I shouldn't say that. But, he can fuck himself. So, well, this seems a little aggressive all of a sudden. I love Elon Musk. Yeah, I still have a SpaceX license plate holder on my car because I got a tour there like 9 years ago from a kid who was interning there. What a cool place. Only because of the people that are working there who are so excited and smart about, the future of space travel. Elon Musk just has some really garbage takes on things in life, and he's not a real person because he's a billionaire and he's totally disconnected from real life and the life experience of the rest of us. He doesn't know what that is like, and I stand by that statement for sure. So, nonetheless, what was I even talking about? Why did I get off? How did I get off on that bullshit? Oh yeah. So anyway, I really don't remember why that happened. I hope he'll forgive me for talking ill of him. It's much easier to dislike someone when you've never met them before. At least that's my experience. And so if you meet someone that you supposedly dislike already, see if you still dislike them after you meet them and actually realize that they're just a person. That's, because one of the most difficult things I think is that when they say you have to love thy enemy, and which I think we would all agree is a very evolved way of living one's life. But how many people actually, could say that they try to do that? It seems like very few people try to do that. So I love you, Elon Musk, if you're listening to this. You're not my enemy. That's way too strong of a word. I don't think I have any enemies. That's a really strong word from where I come from. Anyway, let's take a quick pause so I can get out of this to hear from a few sponsors real quick. Okay, and we're back. So we're back. We're refreshed. We had some diet A&W probably. You shouldn't be drinking that. I should not be drinking that, but that doesn't mean I don't drink it. So, hey, no apologies. I no longer have nicotine in my life. I'm no longer addicted to that drug, or I'm no longer using that drug. Whether or not I'm addicted to it still, I suppose. I mean, I don't know that, the basic science of all that. I no longer do drugs, so I'm in a pretty good place. So a couple A&W zero sugars every hour. Did I say a couple every hour? I guess I did. It doesn't matter. I'm allowed to have that. And sure, it's poison. Yeah, I know. Sugar is also poison. Everything's poison. So, but if the world is comprised of consciousness, does really that even matter? I know the first part of this episode was kind of talking about movies and life and connection and emotions and things like that. And those are tied into what I want to circle back to, which I've referenced more than a few times in the last year or so, which is idealism. And idealism is such a beautiful concept to me. And I definitely would make the choice to identify as an idealist. One who believes in a philosophical and, I suppose, scientific way that the foundation of all existence, as we can measure and or understand it, is consciousness. And that our perception of all physical matter, all material, is an extension of that consciousness and not vice versa. We are not able to understand consciousness because of the material beings we are at a foundational level. We are able to understand the material world and the material beings we are because of the foundation of consciousness that is at the core, that is at the heart of every and all things. So what this does for the world of the paranormal is it makes everything indeed quite possible, at least in my opinion. You might differ in your opinion on this matter, but for the sake of this conversation, let's just say that any and all things are possible when we approach from the philosophical point of view of idealism. Yeah, so I'm an idealist, and I'm happy to be an idealist. And when one considers the implications and tries to dig deeper and potentially find some understanding, which is it even possible? I'm not entirely sure about the answer to that, but other than to say that anything is possible, because the of what I just spoke about, how any and all things are possible from the perspective of an idealist, then finding the answer therefore should be possible, because that would fall under any or all things. So, sorry if you hear the chair creaking here. I'm in a new location. Nonetheless, physically, my consciousness has come to understand that I'm in a different physical location. The material that composes me as a physical form is in a location different than what it used to be. Okay, we get it. We get it. So, if we launch from this perspective, which to me is the key to really understanding the heart of the matter when it comes to paranormal phenomena, we begin to understand that not only are any and all things possible, but any and all connections also are possible. Therefore, the connections between Bigfoot, aliens, extraterrestrials, ghosts, and all other paranormal phenomena, including, PK, ESP, all these other things, psychic abilities, all of these things are connected through consciousness. And I think all of us would probably agree that the umbrella of consciousness is all-encompassing. And not only is it very convenient for examining paranormal phenomena and the unknown, the supernatural, the mystical, and the esoteric, not only is it convenient to do so, it is quite logical when examined from this perspective. Now, some people might be saying that I shouldn't be using the word logical there, and I would say that is illogical. And that doesn't mean that it's anti-logic, it just means it's sick logic, illogical. It is. Your logic has a fever, my friend. Your logic has a fever. Come, put this cold rag of idealism on your forehead. Cool off and feel better. So the Loveland Frogman is possible. As silly as it sounds to many people, because let's be honest, when you hear Frogman, when you hear Dogman, when you hear Pigman, is there a Hogman out there? Is there a like a Boar Man out there? Oh, that would be terrifying. A Boar Man? Maybe a Boar Man is just a skeptic. And very, very boring. I think when we have these very common animal names just thrown onto the front of, or combined with the word man, it becomes silly. There's not the Loveland Frog person, even though ideally that's what it would be probably. Because, how are you going to tell I couldn't tell you the sex or whatever of a real frog. Or a bird, even. Anyway, there is, a crispness to it. Frogman, Dogman. So what you have here is this Loveland, which is, for all intents and purposes, it's part of Cincinnati, which is it's a legendary, human-like frog that was seen walking across a street, if I'm not mistaken, the first time, about 4 feet tall. Okay, now what you begin to understand is the interesting connections between the description of Frogman and the description of goblins, Kentucky goblins, the connection between those, and then the descriptions of gray aliens, which are roughly the same height and with large bulging eyes and a huge head. So is it that crazy to think that there is a connection between all of those things? I believe, let's look it up. I was going to say I believe, but it was the early 70s, 1972. It was the first spotting, allegedly, of the Frogman in Loveland, Ohio. And, because we love the, what is it? God, I can't remember this phrase, but it's a very popular phrase, confirmation bias, or it's like, position of power bias, when it's like, well, many scientists believe that blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, scientists believe. Very good. Or, a former lieutenant colonel from the Air Force has said that blah, blah. Oh, a former lieutenant colonel of the Air Force. Then it must be real because lieutenant colonels of the Air Force couldn't be liars or couldn't be, wackadoodle. Or, it's a professor, a doctor has said that blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, then it must. It must certainly be the case. Because a doctor, someone who went to school for longer than most people, it must be real. So we have this, it's a very easy phrase, and I don't remember it right now off the top of my head, which is unfortunate. So you're probably listening to it and being, Ryan, it's called this. And you're right. It is called that. It's called exactly what you think it's called because you know. So it was a police officer who first reported the Loveland Frog. So that is, so it comes with that like, oh, well, there is something to be said about like if you could lose your job over talking about something strange, people seem to give it more credence or more credibility, and I do understand that because there is more risk and much less reward for coming forward and talking about the thing you experienced or saw. So I do understand that. If Ted from the 7-Eleven was like, hey, a frogman came by and tried to get some menthol lights, and he didn't have an ID, but he looked like a frog, you're going to be like, okay, well, he's not going to lose his job. He's almost expected to be working the overnight shift at a 7-Eleven because he's probably super high all the time. These are like assumptions and prejudices or, things that we should not be making about people. Now there are varying accounts, and there is some dispute, I suppose, over the Frogman. I mean, 1955 is one of the years people say it's like a business guy, businessman, Frogman. What's the real difference? Well, I'd just say the prefix, probably, among other physical characteristics. But so there are, so there's the 1955 report that took place in the Branch Hill neighborhood, where apparently there was, multiple frog men, maybe even a frog woman or a frog child. Frog child, my child. I don't know why I'm doing that. They were spotted under a poorly lit bridge, which is, wow. I mean, are we getting into troll territory here? This seems like troll territory. Pay the toll. Okay, well, it is interesting that ooh, things are coming unspun over here. I feel the energy right now. It is interesting that trolls want you to pay a toll. So troll and toll separated by a single letter, which is R. Are you willing to believe that trolls want you to pay a toll? And where are trolls spending this money, right? Where are people letting trolls come in and use legal tender regarding of the country or place, there's bullions or, quarters or dollars or rubies, whatever it is? Who has a business that all the trolls know is a safe place to go do their shopping? So when trolls want you to pay a toll, I would be suspect. I would ask a couple questions like, well, where are you going to spend this money? What do you need this money for? Are you part of the troll union? Is there a union? Do you have union dues? Is there health coverage? What about accident insurance? Can a troll rent a car? These are things I need to know because the answer is probably no. And so it is interesting, though, that trolls want a toll. And talking about any creature underneath a bridge, I start thinking about trolls and I start thinking about tolls. And, to cross over, I mean, I understand it's you know, it's a common theme. It is very likely that it's a metaphor in many ways. In many ways or just one way? I don't know the rules about metaphors, but I can tell you this. I mean, I have a creative writing degree. That doesn't mean I need to know things. What is the price one must pay to make the choice to cross a threshold, a barrier, an impediment, right? We are going from one place to another that is separated by some kind of difficulty. I think difficulty is probably I kind of got lucky and picked the right word. So it's a terrain, it's a geography thing, or is it an emotional thing, right? You are paying a price when you leave a place to go to a new place that might be unknown. Or you're also paying a price if you leave a place that you know to go back to a place that you also know maybe even better than the place you're leaving from. So there is a price to be paid. What are you giving up from yourself? Or what are you sacrificing in some way to make this change, to cross over, to go into the liminal space, to end up on the other side of that liminal space in a new, quote unquote, place? This is the toll. Life takes a toll on all of us. You hear that phrase. Oh, God, it really took a toll on me. So, this has many different meanings, right? And it's not beyond the realm of possibility that it's just a beautiful metaphor. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful way to express the emotional toll or the change or the sacrifice that must be made and or given to go to a new place or to go do a new thing. I would take an emotional toll if I quit stand-up comedy and if I quit this podcast and I just started doing something completely different. Whether I became, I don't know, an Amazon Prime driver or worked in a warehouse or got a job as a writer somewhere, or customer service for an insurance company, or I pursued a new passion, opened up a baseball card shop or a crystal shop or a card, crystal, coffee, and comedy shop, house, store, venue. There would be a toll that I pay emotionally and I'll maybe even monetarily or physically to do so. When we go from one place emotionally to another place, there's also a toll. I think we all understand that. We all understand the emotional toll a new relationship or even a breakup has on us. There is a toll when you start a new relationship, right? Much in the same way there is when a relationship ends. So the bridge, the troll, the toll, that's how we got here. I think I kind of figured it out in my mind here out loud into the microphone for you, at least for me to have a better understanding. Oh, there's a beautiful golden retriever running around outside. Oh, I love a golden retriever dog. Anyway, try not to like be under poorly lit bridges in the middle of the night too often if you can help it. That's just kind of a word of advice. It's interesting. There's a There was a professor at the University of Cincinnati, Edgar Slotkin, who compared the Loveland Frog to Paul Bunyan, saying the stories about it have been passed down for several decades and that sighting reports seem to come in predictable cycles. Now, there have been multiple police reports. Popular culture has kind of embraced it, at least here in the southern Ohio area. The Loveland Frog has been embraced. That, I don't know. I don't get into the, if you do any research, if you do even the slightest bit of research into this, you start seeing, talk about this iguana thing. There's there's an iguana that was released and it grew too large. But the iguana was only 3.5 feet long, and it was missing its tail. There's not a 3.5 foot tall iguana that people are mistaken for the Frogman. Now, what do you think is more ridiculous? That people believe they saw a frog, the Loveland Frog, the Frogman, walking on 2 feet upright, or that someone's trying to pass off a 3.5 foot iguana that lost its tail somehow was mistaken for the Frogman? How does that iguana walk? The iguana still walks on 4 legs. Okay, we're not stupid over here. We're not stupid over here. Iguanas don't walk upright. What's is more ridiculous in your mind? Here's what I'm going to do. Depending on my travel schedule here the next few weeks, I'm going to go down to Loveland. I'll take some photos. I'll try to get some more information. I've never really immersed myself into the Frogman, even though I grew up, somewhat close to the Frogman's territory. There's a lot of Bigfoot activity here in Ohio, and there's a lot of national or state parks, and I think there's some national park area that runs through here as well. Anyway, I think the Appalachian Trail runs through here. Anyway, the point is, I could do that. I could try to immerse myself a little bit, because I'm not going to live for many reasons that are too many to count and list here on the program. I was going off about I live in Point Pleasant. It's so beautiful there. It's not going to happen. I can't do that. I can't just pick up and move to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I mean, any and all things are possible, like we said here earlier. But there's things in my life I have to consider. There are things in my life, things and people in my life that, are worthy of consideration, in fact, that I've chosen to make them as such. And I just can't, you just can't do anything you want all the time. I mean, you can, but, and I kind of have most of my life, not really. I have like a crippling, debilitating, fear of people disliking me, and I just always think everyone dislikes me. It's just I think that's called an anxiety issue. I think most of us understand that and can relate to that. Every time my phone rings, I just think someone's going to be like, yeah, this is me calling you to let you know that I don't like you anymore. Does anybody else experience that? Oh gosh. Okay, I think it's because of the performance. I've been performing for so long now and traveling around the country doing shows where I'm trying to be liked. I mean, making people laugh is a form of acceptance, right? So you think that after a while you just get over that. But you always want to have a good show. And that's the kind of point of view I take into every conversation. Can you imagine? Trying to be on all the time. That would that'd be exhausting. Anyway, so the Frogman's shown up in pop culture and some other things. There's even been a musical about it. It's been in a science fiction book where it's kind of referenced. It's inspired things, I'm sure, as well. You come around here and you'll hear about the Frogman. You'll see images of the Frogman. There's this there's not a large tailless iguana being confused as the Frogman. I just don't buy that. I'm not into that. What is the Frogman up to, and what does the Frogman want? And evolutionarily, how do you explain the Frogman, and how do we get to that? I don't know. I can't say for sure. I have any clue on how that works or how that plays out. Do I unequivocally, beyond the shadow of all doubt, believe that the Frogman is a real cryptid, is a real creature? No, I don't. You want me to lie and say I do? I'm not going to do that. I do not unequivocally believe that the Frogman is real and legit. Now, what you have with Sasquatch and Bigfoot is you have it's an overwhelming amount of sightings and witness reports, etc. Now, with the Frogman, you don't necessarily have such an overwhelming pile of evidence, because first-hand witness reports are evidence. I'm not gonna not die on this hill, but I will say this: eyewitness reports are evidence. We've talked about this before. I'm not impressed, nor do I entertain the idea that eyewitness reports are not evidence. And people who do not find that as evidence, I'm not interested in that point of view. And I'm not interested in their reasoning for that, because it is definitely 100% based on whatever their idea of scientific method is, even though they're 94% of the time they're not even a damn scientist, right? So I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in those people's point of views regarding or trying to be dismissive of first-hand eyewitness reports. First-hand eyewitness reports are evidence, always have been evidence, and always will be evidence, as far as I'm concerned. That is not to say that some people do not lie or mistake what they see. The people who are lying, I'm not including in my idea of what evidence is. And the people who mistake, hey, you know what? Just because I'm considering all of this to be evidence doesn't mean there shouldn't be some discernment or follow-up or investigation regarding such things. I think that's pretty clear. Also, I've got updated information about Post Town and my buddy Matthew Jackson. I got to get him back on the program because he's done some extra digging for me, and I think we've uncovered potentially some new wrinkles into the investigation into Post Town. I'm excited to talk to you about that at some point. Don't forget to check out the Patreon for ad-free episodes and also other bonus content. Patreon.com // what is that? Is that like a backslash is what I meant to say. So patreon.com Ryan Singer. So just find Ryan Singer over on Patreon. You'll see it. You'll get it. You'll know it. You'll understand it. And I think you'll like it. And if you like the Mindcast, it's been 8.5 years, 650 plus episodes. Share it with a friend. Share your favorite episode with a friend. We need more people to listen to the program. I'd love that. I'd love more people to discover this program. And if you do listen to it, I'd love you to rate it if you've never done so in 8 years. Give it a 5-star rating. Write a nice review. I'd appreciate that. Share it with a friend. Tell one person. There's lots of great podcasts out there. I really, really appreciate you listening to this one. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you continue to do so. I've got some great interviews coming up with some new people and also some of my favorites. So we've got lots of fun stuff and exciting stuff coming up on the show. I love you. I hope you love yourself. That's the most important thing of all things. So, and I hope to see you at a road show, at a Carnival road show sometime. I'll be in Cleveland, Ohio. I'll be in Detroit, Michigan. I'll be in Illinois, all in the month of October. Check out ryansingercomedy.com /tour for those dates. And more dates coming soon. I'm trying to do like a storytelling paranormal show, maybe in November, early December. So let's see if we can't make that happen. I don't know. It's a little too late to try to be booking this, but we'll see if I can't pull it off. Anyway, If I don't see you at a show sometime or on the internet, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.